Oh shoot, I forgot to bring my water in. That's okay. I'll live.
You're fine.
What happened? Got stuck on something?
I don't know.
It looks like you laid on something and then it transferred. See, it's like ink.
All right, good evening.
Maybe wet.
We're going to begin in 30 seconds.
Maybe it'll
Please
come
ensure your
off.
cell phones are off or on silent, and council members ensure your microphones are turned on. If you are from the public and haven't done so yet, please sign the sign-in sheet outside the door. All right, today is Monday, March 20th, 2023. This is a Committee of the Whole meeting for Barberton City Council. Before we begin the Committee of the Whole meeting, we will start our individual committee meetings for this evening. It is 6:01 p.m. and we will start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is Monday, March 20th, 6:01. I'd like to bring to order the Streets, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee. I'm Chair Erica Bailey, and Shorter Griffin is on the committee. All other council members are present, as guests noted on my sheet. I have two requests, both of them from Mr. Michael Tiadecki, the city engineer. The first request is legislation to allow the mayor to enter into contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the improvement of 4th Street Northwest.
Bless you. Thank you.
CR 662 from Westlake Avenue to Norton Avenue. Emergency wording is requested. This is the final resolution required by the state of Ohio. We did pass Resolution 181, 2022, was agreeing to participate in this project with ODOT/Amex. So this is actually, let's see, is to go ahead to participate, to agree to participate in this project. Do I have any questions from my committee?
No.
From the body? Any questions? We finally got the final one. Thank you. Do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Bailey, do I have a second?
Second.
Shorter? Mr. All day? Yes. Okay. The second piece of legislation I have from our city engineer is requesting legislation to enter into contract with Kungle and Sons Property Maintenance LLC in the amount of $64,962.26 for the East Houston sewer construction. Emergency wording is requested. The city requested requested proposals from 8 qualified contractors, and only 3 were received. And the Kunkel and Properties was the best and the lowest. There was a Webster Marshall and a Kavanaugh that had all sent in bids. This project, when completed, will provide a means of removing standing water after rain events by installing 9 catch basins and storm sewer. They're going to construct 12-inch PVC storm sewers along the south side of East Houston from a point near 9th Street to a point of 960 feet westerly. I have been working with the city and the past service directors for a number of years on this, and even if it's dry, it's always wet there. It's just always wet. Downspoutings come down this street, and you can, we paved it before, and it just crumbled. It's something that really, really needs to be done. So do I have a motion to call for this? So first of all, do I have any questions? Mr. Heidi?
Thank you, Chair. Is that when I looked at the topographical maps there, is that portion of the east side that just kind of is like a little...
Yes. In fact, I think
It's
you
like
know
a-
the one person that lives on the corner of 8th, or the side street and Houston, because I had talked to him, and their property is lower, than the street. So his downspouts come out, but they hit the street and just flood, his yard and everybody else's yard around there. The street is curved, and what do you do with the water? There was a couple of projects that we did, and none of it helped at all. And it's so funny because the catch basin or the bog at the end of the street, they're on that State and 9th, it's dry all the time. Well, because all the water's sitting up the street, so we got to get that water going down. And it's a project that I have talked to many of the neighbors around there over the years, and we tried different things. And I'm just so graceful that this is finally getting done, because there's nothing you can do. You can't even patch the street. I have been there where it's been dry because of the holes that was full of water, and cars just fly down the street and they're just shooting water all over the place. So it's a project that I probably has been asking for 7 years if there's anything we can do. So like I said, we did try several different things, but this needs to be done.
To complicate that, aren't there small springs in that area too that really doesn't help, that's just that little?
I don't know. I don't remember any of the service directors telling me there were springs there, but I don't know if there is. I don't think so. I think that the road is just crest up higher than the property, and the only way without the city doing anything is to have all the neighbors or fill up their front yard, so the yard is higher than the street. And like I said, I've worked through 3 service directors on this project. So I'm grateful that it is getting done now, because everything that we thought this would help, it didn't help it at all. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Burr?
Thank you, Chair. Is this going to affect that road? That's a newer road, I believe, right?
No, this is East Houston. West Houston
Okay.
is all new, from 5th to Van Buren. So this, I think the neighbors will really, really be happy about this.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the body? Mr. Teodecki, do you have anything to say?
You did a fantastic job explaining it. I don't know what there is else to add
Well,
to it, so-
many years on this project, yes, yes. Thank you. Do I have a motion to call for this? Mrs. Bailey first.
Second.
Mr. Griffin, all in favor?
Aye.
We have no pending legislation, and I'll open that up for miscellaneous. Anybody have miscellaneous? Yes, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Ms. Angelo. Any information or updates on the repair list, street repair list for the paving?
I didn't even, have you gone out the bid yet?
So we're working on the legal notice right now.
Okay.
It should be hitting the paper this Thursday.
Okay.
So our engineer is finalizing everything. So it'll be very, very, very soon.
Okay. I'm one that I still get the hard copy of the newspaper, and I look to see the bids, and I see them from different communities and everything. I didn't see one for Barberton, so I assume that they're still working on that. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Griffin,
I'll second that.
second. Mrs. Bailey, and we are adjourned at 6:08 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to call to order the Environmental Health and Social Services Committee. It is March 20th, 2023, 6:08 p.m. We are in council chambers. Myself as chair, and then Mr. Jaber and Mrs. Angeloff are also on the committee. And then all other council members are present, and all others noted on my sheet. There are no new requested legislation or pending legislation, so I will open this up for miscellaneous discussion.
I have nothing.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I will second that.
We are adjourned at 6:09 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Complaint, annexation,
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee to order. It is Monday, March 20th, 2023, 6:10 PM here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which include myself as chair, Mrs. Angeloff, Mr. Jaber, and President Greer. All other council members are also present, as well as other guests noted on my agenda sheet. We have one new request for legislation, a letter from Stacy Carr, Strategic Planner, to amend Barberton's Project Impact Plan to amend ordinances number 109-2015 and 155-2016 to reflect the updates in the plan. Emergency worded is requested. However, this will go 3 readings. The changes include updating the definition of a buildable parcel and adjusting the sale price of our lots to reflect competitive pricing. I don't know, is Mr. Worcester here? I don't think so. No, okay. Are there any questions about this piece of legislation? Mr. Heidig?
Thank you, Chair. Will the Plan Commission be taking up other parts of Project Impact, namely what I'm looking at here that I've always thought could be an issue? Number 5, under buildable parcels, construction to commence within 90 days upon taking the title, completion shall occur within 12 months of that date. If someone were to buy at the beginning of November, starting construction within 90 days is almost an impossible feat. And then once that's done, once the bad weather is passed, then they only have few months to complete within 12 months. Will they be taking up some sort of adjustment to that, some sort of agreement with whoever purchases the property?
It's not included in these changes, but that might be worth mentioning, Mrs. Angela.
I think, excuse me, I think if you pull a permit, then they just, within that 90 days, you know, I mean, of course, you're not going to, if it's January and we have 3 foot of snow, you're not going to start construction, but maybe the attempt, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, that if you pull a permit, or if you have the zoning changed, or you're in the process, I'm sure that's not going to hold the 90 days, but we can check with Mrs. Miller on that.
Mrs. Miller, do you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The number 5 under buildable parcels says under Project Impact, says construction to commence within 90 days upon taking title, and completion shall occur within 12 months of that date. My question was, will the Plan Commission look to alter that? If somebody purchases in November, they're not going to be able to commence construction within 90 days in winter time. Then once they're able to, that November date, then they would only have a few months to complete. Will there be some changes to that to kind of let an agreement become between the city and the purchaser instead of being a hard number like this?
Yeah, so what we could do, so that's why I think that, I don't know, what did they call for 1 reading, or I don't know what the request was on the.
3 readings.
Okay, yeah, so those are some things that we should probably just really look at when we, well, Mr.
Okay. The intent of that was after the permit was issued. You should have to go through, building plans have to be approved and everything like that, so that's gonna take a few weeks or a couple months. And then it was supposed to be actually when you break ground with the permit. We probably could clarify that to say that. I would recommend we change it to when the permit's issued. Because you're not gonna, nobody in the right mind is gonna start turning over dirt in December, but that was the intent. So
It's
maybe
when
we
you-
ought to change the wording a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you pull a permit.
Yeah, because it does make it seem that
Well, it
once
does-
you purchase it, you've got 90 days to start building.
That's exactly what it says, to
Yeah.
commence within 90 days. Within 90 days upon taking title is in bold in here. Then the word completion shall occur within 12 months of that date. So I'm not sure that if the Plan Commission would like to somehow clarify what the actual
Update it.
intent is instead of having that in black and white, it just makes,
Well, I don't think I think that the planning commission's intent of the language that they sent over is somewhat clear. I think we can just word it in a way that accomplishes their goal.
That's just not one of the things that they were looking to update. So it's been like that all along.
Right.
So, Mrs. Angela.
Where are you reading this? Section 5?
It's on the,
On what?
Number 5, under project impact redevelopment phase. It was on the city's website.
it's not in our.
It's not in
Oh,
the
it's not
packet,
in
no,
our
I was
packet.
perusing the
Okay.
project impact
Okay.
actual wording here from, it says approved 7/27/2015 for redevelopment phase. And everything that this is adjusting is in this project impact redevelopment phase. That's why I was wondering if the commission was going to take up different numbers on this with the other changes as well.
I think that's with anything, you buy a piece of property, 90 days pull permit. You know, your intent is there that you're going to build, but because of the weather, you know, but clarification probably wouldn't hurt.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
So, for the committee, we're
Yep.
fine with.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I have a question. So we have this document before council, and then there's another document online, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So,
If you search on Barberton's website, Project Impact, it brings up this PDF of Project Impact redevelopment phase.
okay, so what,
What's
so
the
that
date?
is a,
Yeah,
so
I
what
can't
I'm
find
saying
it
is
either.
that document was created under probably the prior ordinance. So they haven't updated that because they don't have another ordinance to update it from. So that's under the old document. So if a new ordinance is passed, they can update the document online, but they cannot update the document online until they pass another ordinance, so. Right?
Right.
Right, okay.
But that's not addressed in an ordinance that I'm seeing, and I could be wrong here. The timing in the 90 days and the 1 year, I couldn't find online of any changes to that, and there's no changes to that in what's in front of us.
I can't even find that number 5 on the paper we have.
That's
You
why I'm
can't.
looking
Yeah, I
at it.
can't-
No,
I
he
can't-
just
That's why I
said it's
I could be
online.
wrong here because I'm on the city's website, and this is what comes up for the Project Impact redevelopment phase.
But it's not in the original, it's not in the original ordinance, that part of it, the
This says approved
redevelopment.
7/27/2015.
727.
Well, what's the ordinance number?
It does not have one on here. It's a link from the city's website to a PDF that says Project
This says
Impact.
7/10/2015. I know what you're saying, but the paper they're giving us is dated 7/10.
So it's like Lisa said, they'll update it after they have their ordinance, right? Mrs. Miller?
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is, if they have okay, so you have law, which is an ordinance, and then you have policy, which is derived from law. So if the law is A, and you derive policy from it, and then you change the law to B, you can derive policy from that law. Right now, we have law, which is A, and they've derived a policy from it. If you change the law to B, which is the new law, they can derive policy from that. But right now, we only have A, so they've derived that policy. If you change it to B, they can derive new policy from that. But right now, they don't have B. So this is the old policy, which they've published online. If you change it to B, they can derive new policy. But
Okay.
they can't do that until you change it.
Mr. Heidick, I can't find what you're looking at, if you,
If you go to Barberton's website,
right?
under the search thing, type in Project Impact.
Okay.
Now that I've pulled it up, it's not coming up.
Yeah.
Can we get a new
because
website?
When you, when you had showed me that, I just hadn't seen that part of it when it was reviewed at Planning Commission. I don't remember anything about having to start within 90 days. But we'll definitely look into that. Maybe I'll give Pete a phone call tomorrow. But is the committee okay with 3 readings on this to kind of get some clarification? Still have the emergency wording, that way it can become active right away. Okay.
I was going to request 3 readings anyhow.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make a motion to call.
Perfect. In a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
sending it to you.
Can't find it.
No, I've searched it on Google, and it's the first thing, Project Impact. HTTPS City of Barberton PDF, Project Impact. A Google search can find it, but our own website
Can I say
can't.
something just from a marketing standpoint? There are web pages that can live for infinity that someone didn't catch the URL, that are linked to our website. That could just be a fluke URL that you can't find searching on the website. But thank you for finding that. If it's floating out there,
I'm
it's
gonna
still
check, if
being
you find it,
deleted.
send it to me,
Yeah.
because I'm interested in reading further into it. Like I said, that's the first that I had seen that. It was not mentioned at the planning commission meeting, but that's something to think about for sure.
And Mrs. Thompson, if you
Yep.
can send it to the committee. 'cause
Oh,
I-
definitely, yep. We don't have any pending legislation at this time. I will open it up for miscellaneous discussion. I do want to say that the expansion of Magic City Motor Cars, their service center, has been approved. So that's really exciting for them. They're going to tear down a couple buildings and build a nice parking lot, put up some fencing, and they're going to expand their building, which will also allow for a couple new employees as well for them. So there's that. Is anybody, does anybody else have miscellaneous discussion? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Any updates on Rockwell Building yet? I've had a couple constituents repeatedly ask. Any updates?
I haven't gotten any updates. I don't know if,
What building?
The Rockwell on Mill
Rockwell.
Street?
That would be the foundation.
Foundation.
yeah.
That's the foundation.
That is non-disclosure until they disclose it.
Any other miscellaneous discussion? From the gallery? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that, ma'am.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:21.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel, it is Monday, March 20th, 2023 at 6:22 in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. Few requests tonight. First one, this is referred from Parks. Letter from Don Patterson, Barberton's Park and Recreation Director, requesting legislation to appropriate $27,000 from the Parks 2023 capital improvement budget for the purchase and installation of surveillance system in the parks.
Pardon me, how much?
67,000.
67,000, what'd I say?
27.
Looking like
Hey, got it cheaper.
Okay.
67,000, excuse me. Emergency wording is requested. Any questions or comments besides that I screwed that up? All right, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the second is a letter from Mayor William Judge requesting a resolution supporting the full restoration of the local government fund by the state of Ohio. Emergency wording requested. Seems like this is every year that we have to do this one. And Director Flakers sent me some numbers from when that idiot Kasich was in office and started cutting things. We have been shorted probably 6.8 million. Is that correct, Director?
Roughly, if we go on the conservative side of things, after we spoke today, and if I go based upon the percentages outlined in the resolution, it's about double that amount, almost 13 million. So the 6 million is probably on the conservative side of things.
I don't know if anybody's researched some of this stuff with the state there, but there's 3.5 billion in the rainy day budget. And obviously, there was scant amount there when things were cut, trying to get things back. And now that that fund's built up, still haven't seen anything. Got a couple quotes from our friend John Kasich there. March of 2014, just to show you guys how serious this is, and I want this to be said here. His quote, one was, "Are they spending less? You sure? I haven't heard of any places where, my goodness, we couldn't put a fire out." That came straight from him as governor. Another one was, with a 3 to 5% devastating cut in the local government fund, how could they survive that? He scoffed. Seriously, I mean 3 to 5%. Wow. Again, from him. Another suggestion of his as governor, to cope, cities and townships should cut spending in shared services such as police departments, trash collection, 911 call centers, and vehicle fueling with neighboring municipalities. So while he was in office busy cutting us, he was also trying to tell cities that have home rule what they should be doing. Didn't seem very governor-like then, and it's no secret I hate John Kasich. I'm hoping that DeWine can finally wake up and see the havoc caused, because when you see the amount of money just our small cities been shorted, think of the bigger cities too. Think of Akron. Think of what this has done to our budgets. I went through from 2012 with Director Flaker's numbers and adjusted it year by year for inflation. Not only that did we lose what we lost the purchasing power of $340,000. Councilor Ansloff, that would have paid for that project that you just passed out of your committee. That's just in purchasing power. With his just nonchalant cavalier attitude towards what he did to cities, and DeWine needs to pick this up. John Kasich's words weren't the words of somebody vindictive or out of touch, and I don't care if you want to censor me that, they were the words of an asshole. That was the most idiotic thing I have ever heard out of somebody's mouth, to basically take a state as a governor, slash your cities that support the state, to try to balance your budget, and then when you get into a $3.5 billion rainy day fund, wave us off. I'm sure our police and EMT could have used some help there, even if they would have earmarked it towards that. Any other remarks besides me? Counselor?
Well, did it pass out of the House of Representatives and the Senate? It passed through that, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, the people we voted in, they weren't even
Oh,
looking
they're
at
not.
it either, so.
Yeah, they're not innocent in this as themselves.
I'll make a motion that we call for it.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Before he boils over.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Thompson, as well. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, I'm just a little passionate about what
Our
we've done to
money.
help. It's a terrible partnership where they cut us and then don't bring us back once they recover. So, moving on. Calm down. Lastly, letter from Jamie Eisman, Director of Public Safety and Human Resources, requesting legislation to amend Ordinance 63, 2021, amending Ordinance 37, 2021, employees not included in non-bargaining pay grades, with the request here. Director, I see you in the audience there. Care to add any remarks? I did see that most of these amount to about a $3 raise per hour, which in these days seems, from 2021 to now, seems legitimate.
Correct, that was pretty much how they all did it, with the exception of the reserve officer. I wanted to bring that up to what a starting officer would be. It's still a little bit under, but not much. So it's going to be nice to be able to offer seasonal or part-time employment for those that are competitive, when you can work just about anywhere from 15. So I wanted to start off just a little bit ahead of the game for once. So.
Are there any questions? Gallery? Okay, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Director. Be easier to pay if we had local government fund. Anyway, we have no pending legislation. Open this up for miscellaneous discussion. Any from the committee?
I have none.
From the body? From the gallery? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:29.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes our individual committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take a short, like 3-minute break. We'll come back and begin the committee of the whole.
He would do what was best for her.
The big brother.
Yeah, well, he's quite a bit taller than her.
Right, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he thinks he's got everything under control. Well, he's cooking. I just told him to stand down and let me handle it. Got it.
He's starting.
All right, we're going to begin in 30 seconds.
Well, I'm backing off. I'm backing off from things. Turn the mic back on.
Council, if you haven't done so, ensure your microphones are turned back on.
Okay.
Do you want us all to do that?
It's working.
Go around in a circle, tap it?
It's that audio sensory.
Our red light don't work, that's why.
All right, today is Monday, March 20th, 2023. This is a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 6:37 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, for citizens addressing council, we do have one citizen addressing council, Mrs. Souls, Kathy Souls. Please state your name, address, and the reason you will be speaking in front of council today. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I am Kathy Souls, and my address is 201 Hillbush Avenue, Akron. And I am reaching out to you folks today, and everybody in the audience. I am from a group that we have now formed called Save Summit Strays. We started out as volunteers at Summit County Animal Control, which closed volunteers' participation due to COVID and also closed to the public. When the governor opened up the state of Ohio, Executive Eileen Shapiro chose not to open up animal control, and we started really pushing to get animal control opened back up. We went to 3 months worth of meetings and basically were shut down. And so we hired legal assistance to see what we could do. And we were told that we needed to get an amendment added to the charter to make a change, because basically Eileen Shapiro is where the buck stops. So the reason why I'm here tonight is I am going to 23 cities and 10 Akron wards, because everyone in Summit County pays taxes towards the county of Summit. Some are more directly impacted and some not as much. Barberton is a city that is impacted. Currently, or the last I knew, there were 23 dogs at the facility, and it has limited access now to the public. You have to, you can only see 3 dogs. The public's not allowed inside. Volunteers have restricted time frames that they can volunteer. And if your dog is lost and you want to go to the pound and see if it's there, you're not allowed to go in. You have to rely on 3 poundsmen. It's the last total of the employees that they had to handle these 83 dogs. So, and also, because you can't go inside, what you do is, if you want to adopt a dog, and I'm just going to show this to everybody, is you go stand in their parking lot and you look at these dogs in the window. And you pick 3 dogs that you think you might like, and you hope that they work. That if they don't, you get 15 minutes each time. Then you make it to see more, or if they're too busy, then you have to come back another day. So they're not making it public friendly. Additionally, when the state-of-the-art facility was built, we expected that the dogs would be, getting exercise, enrichment with the volunteers, and human contact. Now, this was last week when I was there. You can see there's nobody in the parking lot and nobody looking at the pictures. And it was 57 degrees. My dogs happened to be out that day. And our state-of-the-art facility, all of the dogs were locked inside. That's not uncommon. We did an investigation during 2021 and presented it to council, because these guys, 3 people and 83 dogs, to feed, give medicines, to clean cages, it's just not enough. Also, if the animals are after working hours, you can't get into the facility. Now in Akron, I don't know what it is in Barberton, but in Akron, they reach out to Rubber City Rescue. And if Rubber City Rescue isn't full, then they will take the dog from an Akron police officer. If they are full, APD instructs them to let the dog loose, because they have nowhere to put them, because the county isn't allowing anybody access to their building. What does that mean? Well, you could be driving down the road and hit an animal, and you have to live with that. Or number 2, you could be dodging it and have a car accident because you're trying to dodge an animal in the road. Or, as I like to say, I'm one of the fools that gets out and tries to get the dog in. And you could get hurt that way as well. So what we are asking from you folks, from council specific, is 1, to reach out to Eileen Shapiro and insist that she opens to pre-pandemic hours. And number 2, join us and sign our petition. If we need 22,000 signatures, which is why we are going all over Summit County. If we get it, it'll put it on the ballot, and the voters will then get to decide how our animals are going to be treated. There's a couple of things addressed on there, but one of them will be a comprehensive evaluation that will be done every year by not people that the city or the county decides to have come in, but outsiders. That's what happened when North Street closed and reopened. They will make the recommendations, and Eileen Shapiro or whoever happens to be in charge will then have to answer to the public with what changes are going to be made. And there's some additional things, like if you are a repeat offender of your dog getting loose, that you would have to get your dog spayed or neutered once you become a repeat offender, because if they're getting out at large, they're impregnating other dogs, and we want to at least start to work from the outside in. So that's basically what I'm here for. I probably forgot to say a bunch of stuff, but hopefully not. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to sit over there if you'd like to sign my petition or if you have any questions. And I thank you all for listening to me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sauls.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said this. Yes.
Thank you. All right, committee reports. We will start with street sidewalks and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street Sidewalks and Lighting Committee met this evening at 6:01. All members were present, all council members were present, and guests as noted on my sheet. We had 2 pieces of legislation. Both of them came from the city engineer, Michael Tiadecki. The first one, he's requesting legislation to allow the mayor to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the improvement of 4th Street Northwest from West Lake Avenue to Norton Avenue. Asking emergency wording is requested. This is the final piece of legislation that's required by the state of Ohio. That came out of committee and was voted on. The second piece of legislation was to enter into contract with Kunkel and Sons Property Maintenance LLC in the amount of $64,962.26 for the East Houston Sewer construction. This too, emergency wording. They were asking, they sent out 8 proposals, only received 3 back, and Kunkel was the best, the lowest and the best, to install a 12-inch PVC storm sewer along the south side of East Houston down to 9th Street, and 9 catch basins. That too came out of committee. There was no pending legislation, and miscellaneous was, a question was asked about the bidding for the street paving, and they are working on the legal notice. And we were adjourned at 6:08. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Planning, annexation, and code.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee met this evening, March 20th at 6:10 p.m. here in council chambers. All members were present, as well as all guests noted on my sheet. We had one new request for legislation, a letter from Stacy Carr, strategic planner, to amend Barberton's project impact plan and to amend ordinances 109-2015 and 155-2016 to reflect the updates in the plan. Emergency wording is requested, but will be going 3 readings. The changes for this include updating the definition of a buildable parcel and also adjusting the sale price of the lots. There was some discussion about this, and Planning Commission is meeting on April 5th, so it'll be discussed then as well. We had no pending legislation or miscellaneous discussion. We adjourned at 6:21, but then I will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Custer. City Utilities, Mrs. Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met March 13th at 6:23. Carol Fry replaced me as chairperson that night. Erica Bailey was there as second. There was no request for legislation. The pending legislation was voted on, and there was no miscellaneous discussion. And with that, I pass.
Public welfare and safety, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met last Monday, March 13th. The meeting began at 6:17. It was here in council chambers. All members, not all members were present. I was present as chair and Mr. Griffin as second on my committee. Mrs. Coburn was absent due to illness. All other council members were here, as well as guests noted on my sheet. We had one request for legislation. It was a letter from Mayor William Judge requesting a resolution urging the legislative branches of the federal and state level to protect citizens from train derailments by instituting rail safety measures. Emergency wording was requested. And we discussed a little bit that the safety measures will be whatever the state decides. Mayors from the mayor had a meeting with many different mayors from throughout the county, and they will also support this with their own resolutions. And this week, I was looking for it, I can't find it, me in the newspaper, but there was an article in this week that our representative, Amelia Sykes, is working with a Republican representative to introduce a bill for different safety measures that have to do with rail safety. And I'm sure it's at home, so I will make sure that Lori gets a copy so that she can give everyone a copy of that to see where they're going with this rail safety. We also had some pending legislation, and the first was an ordinance appropriating $7,500 from the One Ohio Fund to the Police Department. That was passed last week. We also had an ordinance, number 25, 2023, authorizing payment to Life Force Management to pay an invoice in the amount of $5,795.43 to Life Force Management for EMS collection fees. We also had another, and that was voted on and passed. We also had another ordinance, number 30, 2023. This was an authorization for payment to Stryker Flex Financial, and this was authorizing the finance director to pay an invoice in the amount of $8,025.40. It's still wrong on here. To Stryker Flex Financial for payment number 2 of 3 for our heart monitors. There was no comments on any of the legislation we voted on, and there was no miscellaneous discussion, and with that, I will pass.
Rules, Marketing, and Development, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing, and Development met on March 13th. We met in council chambers. All members present except Mrs. Coburn. She was absent, and all others noted. We had no request for legislation and no miscellaneous discussion from council or members in attendance. We adjourned at 6:23, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Environmental Health and Social Services Committee met tonight in council chambers at 6:08 PM. All members, including myself, are present. All others are as noted on my sheet. There was no new requested legislation, no miscellaneous discussion, and we adjourned at 6:09 PM. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties Park Recreation met March 13, 2023 at 6:02 Council Chambers. All members were present on the committee, and Mrs. Coburn was absent, and guests were noted. We had one legislation, one of the few, letter from Don Patterson, Director of Barberton Parks Recreation. Legislation to appropriate $67,000 from the Parks 2023 capital improvement budget for the purchase and installation of surveillance systems in the parks. Emergency wording was requested, and this was referred to finance, and the company will be using SecureTech, and planning will be paying a portion of this. Then we had a letter from Don Patterson, Director of Parks Recreation, requesting legislation to enter a contract with CXC Inc. for the purchase of $120,000 from the 2023 capital improvement budgets for the restrooms at McCafferty Park. And no miscellaneous discussion. We adjourned at 6:17. With that, pass, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Finance and Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel is calling for the following. Legislation to appropriate $67,000 from the Parks 2023 capital improvement budget for the purchase and installation of surveillance systems in the parks. Emergency wording requested was referred from Parks. Second is a letter from Mayor Judge requesting resolution supporting the full restoration of the local government fund by the state of Ohio. Emergency wording requested. Finally, legislation to amend Ordinance 63-2021, amending Ordinance 37-2021, employees not included in non-bargaining pay grades. That I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. That concludes our committee reports. Is there any remarks from the body? Mrs. Campbell.
Yes, I failed to mention this during my Streets Committee meeting. In the Beacon Journal one day last week, I have it saved at home, so I'm going to give it to Todd. Summit County was talking about the larger street projects that was going to happen, and one of them that they highlighted was Worcester Road North and State Street. It was a nice article, said how much money it was, and we should be happy that we're getting some funds for, to get that done. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'll give Todd that article so he can put it in his portfolio.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. Is there anything else from here?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just giving you guys a heads up, Winks did reopen today. It's good to see that reopen, even though it's a business, been there for a while. The new owner did remodel it and did a great job with that, and their menu's awesome. And today I tried the Blame Burger. It's a little spicy. If you guys can't handle it spicy, don't try it. It's a little spicy. And besides that, it was a great day, a beautiful day outside. That'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there anything else from the body? Anything from department heads? I would just like to say happy first day of spring, and the next meeting will be on the 27th. Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I brought this up last week. I kind of want to reiterate, kind of piggybacking off of what Councilwoman Angela spoke about, some of the news coverage that we've received, not only with the streets, but also last week, the two articles, and Council received a copy from Akron.com and Cranes. The Akron article talked about Main Street program we've been working on for a while, and how that will help move the downtown forward, as the Cranes magazine article focused on the bigger parcels with development, redevelopment going on now. And it's a great article, look at the growth of jobs at existing businesses like BWXT. They split from Babcock's and Wilcox a number of years ago, and I think the thought was that they would go kind of under while Babcock's and Wilcox flourished, and you see kind of the reverse, right? So good for us. They've exceeded their job numbers from when they went through the $82 million expansion that we helped them with. And then the former Babcock's and Wilcox campus, new jobs and redevelopment opportunities, new businesses in town. Then also the acquisition of the former Rockwell site at Norton Avenue and Newell Street. So working with the foundation there as well. So just an increasing number of opportunities citywide, new jobs, expansions, and redevelopment projects. And like I said, I mentioned this last week or the other week, and want to bring it up again because those articles are so impactful, because not only does it highlight the hard work that we've been doing with working with people like the foundation or Jobs Ohio or even the private business owners, we've received an influx of calls from developers and site selectors and investors that are interested in what's going on in Barberton and moving jobs here and moving investment here. So that's huge. Kind of with that, a lot going on citywide with street resurfacing and reconstruction projects, whether that's stormwater mitigation projects, the streets, or park improvements. I hope everyone got to see on our social media, city's social media post today about the skate plaza and restrooms at Decker Park. So we've been working on this for several years, looking at grant programs, location, what to include, what amenities to include in the skate plaza. So just a lot of work's gone into this. We've met with community focus groups and community members, visited skate parks as far away as Kettering, down near the Dayton area. Talked to the Tony Hawk Foundation, talked to Portage Lake State Park. There's a small plaza out there, Wadsworth, just to name a few. So just exciting that this feature is moving forward. So if you or your constituents have any questions about this project, the details, or any other projects, please contact me. Our crews it's that time of the year. Our crews are out filling potholes. We've done over 50 tons this year. Expect to get another 15 to 20 tons this week and into next week. Chance of rain this week, but we'll see, because the forecast has not really been all that accurate as of late. So anything and everything could happen. I guess that's the forecast. But crews are out filling potholes. Change for Change is next week at Pregame Tavern, benefiting Barberton Sparkles. This Saturday, I have open office hours at the Active Adult Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. No appointment necessary. Also this week, have meetings lined up with 6 different businesses in town. Talk about their operations, their workforce, and how we can help them if they need any assistance. Winks did open today, soft opening. They are waiting until May for a grand opening, so we'll be there for that as well. So great to see that business continuing to move forward. And then just lastly, still working with the state and federal legislators on protecting local government rules, home rules, and issues that impact our community, whether that's us specifically or it's more regional or nationally, like rail safety, state and federal funding opportunities, and other important issues. So there's a lot being thrown out at both levels and being discussed, argued, and all those good things. So we want to make sure that we're there to find out what's going on and how that trickles down to us, and if it's a funding opportunity, how we can take advantage of that for the community. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing else. This meeting is adjourned at 6:59 p.m. Thank you.
I didn't see the announcement about the skate park yet.